legislative session. With that said, I want to start off and show you all a brief agenda. Obviously, this is all going to be moved back 10 minutes, given that we've started 10 minutes late. We will also post these slides for everyone so that you can review these when at your leisure. So our opening remarks will, for the next 10 minutes or so, we will have a State of the Sorority address, legislative session, and we will try our best to keep to these timelines. So luckily, we will only be voting on 2 things tonight, and we will be voting on the rest of the agenda items over mail, so we can have discussions virtually. Again, if everyone could please mute your lines when you join.
Sorry, I have a logistical question. Is this like ritual, as in I should be in a room with no one? Like I have headphones in, but should I be in a room all by myself?
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us for the first virtual Phi Sigma Rho conference. While the world has become an unpredictable and at times scary place, I hope the next 2 hours remind you that our sisterhood is always here for you, to support you in difficult times and provide you with friendship needed to move forward with confidence. Our theme for this virtual conference is Stronger Together. Indeed, in the last 6 months, time and again, our sisters have demonstrated that when Phi Rhos band together, we can accomplish great things. Whether it be holding virtual chapter meetings and socials, helping each other through job loss, or supporting our sisters of color by educating ourselves about racism and discrimination and taking meaningful action to do our part to increase their representation in the sorority in the science and engineering fields. Phi Sigma Rho is also at its best when our alumnae and actives come together to support one another, whether it be alumnae giving actives career or life advice, or actives reminding alumnae of the joy of being an active member in college. I encourage all of you, alumnae and actives, to attend the remaining conference sessions, listen to the speakers, but also share your advice, your experience, and offer questions. Your participation will make the sessions a more enriching experience for everyone. Going virtual is new for everyone, certainly new for us. And I know I, as well as the rest of National Council and the national staff, look forward to your feedback on how we can improve this because we envision using virtual as a way to complement our in-person conferences and conventions in the future. With that said, I wanted to take a moment to introduce you all to the National Council. I think a lot of times actives as well as alums do not quite know who the National Council members are and maybe aren't aware of the fact that we are all volunteers and we all very much have our own lives. While we love volunteering for Phi Sigma Rho and giving back, there are obviously limits to what we can and can't do. So there's myself. I am the president, Helen Panikevich. I am a Lambda chapter alum. I'm a mom to a tween girl. I'm an IP and litigation attorney for a software company that does artificial intelligence for cars. There is Helen Liu. She's our vice president of standards, our new vice president of standards. She is from the Alpha Gamma chapter at Louisville. Helen is really impressive. She's a med student. She wants to do emergency medicine and wants to help underserved populations, which I think is great. She lives with her boyfriend and her 2 cats, and she loves spicy food. There is our Vice President of Communications, Stephanie Donahue. She is very impressive in her own right. She is the president and founded her own company, the Pape Group. She is a mom to 2 teen boys. She's a speaker and podcaster. And she's, really into fitness and exercise, which is really amazing to watch her do it and blog about it. We have our Vice President of Finance, Alex Caliguire. I always get that wrong. She is an alum member of the Delta chapter at Toledo. Alex is an automation engineer for biotech companies. She lives with her partner, her girlfriend Liz, who is a FIRO as well. And I jokingly say that they co-own a zoo because they have 2 cats, a guinea pig, a fish, and maybe another animal, but I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. She's also a great cook. Sharon Snyder, our VP of Collegiate Affairs. She's amazing. She has actually a PhD from Purdue. She's a systems engineer for Northrop Grumman. Well, she's actually going to be. She is leaving her job at Raytheon to go work there for the Space Systems Division. She is hopefully a future astronaut. She lives with her husband and her cats, and she runs marathons and does all sorts of other stuff. Then we have our Vice President of Alumni Affairs, Mary Beth White. She is from the Sigma chapter at Oregon State. She is an IE team lead at Boeing, and she's very involved in multiple women leadership groups at Boeing. She lives in Oregon with her husband and her cats. We have our Vice President of Expansion, Jenna Dagstani, who is from the Delta chapter at Toledo. She's a product engineer for an aerosol med device company, and she just bought a house. She spends a lot of time with her nieces and nephews and her extended family in the Ohio area, and she has 2 cats. Our Vice President of Membership, Caitlin Mellis. She is a manager and an entrepreneur, and she has unfortunately been on the receiving end of some of this, these COVID wedding cancellations. Her own wedding has been canceled, and she's become sort of a expert at how to replan a wedding in 75 days. She lives with her fiance and her little dog, Eleanor. Then we have Kathleen Vijay Wargia. I hope I got that right. She's our Vice President of Programming. She's a quality engineer progressive. She is a 6 Sigma black belt, and she is a mom to 2 teen boys with special needs. She's very active in Scouts and her community, and she does just a ton of stuff, and it's amazing that she can do it all. We have our National Council Advisor, Allison Lenhoff. She is an alum from the ADA chapter at University of Michigan. She's a vehicle safety expert for GM for their electric vehicle division, and she's a fellow dog mom to a very energetic rescue. So I say all this because I feel like it helps humanize us, and you can get a better idea of who we are. To that point, I wanted to also sort of point out the organizational structure of Phi Sigma Rho, because it's not often that we talk about this, and it may be, escapes some of us that, we're a very small business. We right now have 3 staff members, 1 full-time staff member, Kat Marriott, our executive director. We have an almost full-time, soon to be full-time communications director, Gabby Salazar, who is from the Zeta chapter. And then Karen Gleason, a Gamma chapter alum, who helps us out, who has helped us through the very difficult transition of losing our former executive director, Colleen Bush, and helping us, bridge the gap until we were able to hire Kat and have her come on to help us. I think it's interesting when you look at this diagram that you see a lot of arrows coming in and out of the sorority staff box. It is true that there is a lot that we ask of our employees, and they do a wonderful job, and we're very lucky to have them, but they have a lot of responsibility and a lot of requests placed on them. So with that, I'd like to start the state of the sorority. We will quickly go through these slides. Each member of the national leadership will present a set of slides, and after there will be 3 breaks during which we'll ask to see if there are any questions. I think it's probably best if you use the chat function to ask us any questions. I will ask Kat to please moderate that so that we're aware of anyone asking. So with that said, so I'm Helen. We've had a lot of accomplishments over the last year. We've had a lot of changes. We put in place a temporary executive director, Karen Gleason, and then hired a new executive director who started in May, Kat Marriott. If you may remember that we had a formal restructure committee, and there were some proposals that were planned to be put in front of the membership last summer. Over the last year, National Council has worked with that formal restructure committee to negotiate a path forward. Additional things, there has been some leadership turnover, and if I could just address that for a second. A lot of times I hear people say, you know, the leadership turnover in Phi Sigma Rho concerns me, and as it should anyone. But I think that it's important to remember that, you know, we are volunteers and we all have lives and things happen that we can't control. And, you know, when people leave National Council, they leave for a lot of different reasons, most of them personal. And it's not always necessarily a reflection on the sorority. It's, you know, a reflection of the fact that we are a volunteer-led organization. And because of that, we suffer from, you know, the same things that other organizations of our type suffer from. You know, we have turnover that is caused by personal issues or, you know, lack of bandwidth. So some other things that have happened in the last year. One thing that I'm very proud of, and I'm very excited to see where it will go, is the creation of the Diversity and Inclusion Director position. A very special thanks to Mary McWilliams for taking on that position. Mary is a wonderful person. She has so much leadership experience, and I really believe that she will do a wonderful job putting in place the structure and the long-term strategic plan for the Diversity and Inclusion Director for our sorority. Additionally, we've also created a marketing committee, which you will all receive an email sometime soon with the results of what that marketing group pulled together. That was led by our very own founder, Rashmi Drummond. They've developed a wonderful new marketing plan that really speaks to the core of Phi Sigma Rho. Additionally, we created and staffed a volunteer committee. Charlene Peacock, a Zeta chapter alum, was gracious enough to helm that committee, and Nikki Little, a Lambda alum, is helping her with that. We also staffed the Housing Board Committee that was put into the bylaws last summer during convention. Leanne Smith, an Alpha chapter alum, has graciously offered to head up this effort. In the coming year, I hope to work on putting in place an HR infrastructure for our employees. As you can tell, we have very few employees and we're a very small business. And because of that, not much effort has been put into creating HR policies, employee handbooks, and having the robust, you know, documents, programs, processes that are needed to manage our employees well, make sure that they are setting goals, meeting goals, and that they're being rewarded for their hard work. I also hope to work on creating a staff structure that will serve the sorority for the next 10 years. One of the things that I just spoke about with regards to being a volunteer-based organization, one of the problems with that is that we have a lot of turnover, and transition can be hard and often is not done well. Additionally, there are obviously constraints on a volunteer's time and the amount of time and resources that they can dedicate to the sorority. Because of that, we hope to bring on more staff at some point in the future to start taking on the operational aspects of running our organization so that we can be responsive to our membership and give you the services that you want from Phi Sigma Rho. Other strategic initiatives that I plan to work on are the sorority's partnership with Triangle and our partnership with other engineering organizations. And I just want to briefly thank some outgoing staff and leadership. our outgoing Executive Director, Colleen Bush, our outgoing Finance Assistant, Allison Messieu, and the outgoing National Council members who stepped down during the year, Kathy Lyles, Suzanne Baker-Gagnon, and Kate Pella. So with that, I will hand it over to Helen, our Vice President of Standards.
Hi guys, I'm Helen. I'm an Alpha Gamma alum and I am the Vice President of Standards. So as Kellen said, I took over last month or the month before that. So a lot of the accomplishments listed here are due to Kellen's hard work. So over the past year, we created and staffed a judicial board committee to create a sorority judicial board. We've also created and staffed a governing documents committee. We've worked with a representative of the former restructuring committee from last year to draft a new constitution. We've also drafted a sorority confidentiality policy, a new board of director agreement, a new volunteer agreement, and council guidance on Title IX. We also moderated a council discussion on the 2019 STEM major proposal, and the feedback from that discussion was used to help draft the motion that we'll be discussing today. So for the next year, I'll be working with the Governing Documents Committee, which is headed by Eliana Burney. She is a UConn alum. We'll be taking some of the feedback we received from the Restructure Committee and working on some amendments to the CBP to help reflect the future growth that we are planning on moving towards. We'll also be working with the Judicial Board Committee, which is headed by Alice Klinhoff, our NC advisor. So this is a board that's going to be used. We're going to take over some of the duties and responsibilities of National Council in order to submit some checks and balances and help sisters have like an avenue of like a judicial system to discuss that's separate from the National Council. On top of that, I'll be refining majors listed on chapter spot so they're easier to navigate, and I'll be doing a mail vote on the proposals we'll be discussing today and some other ones that might be upcoming.
Thanks, Helen. Now we'll hear from Stephanie, our Vice President of Communications.
All right. Hello, everyone. I've been really excited to get engaged this year because Kellen mentioned I own an IT consulting company, and that's actually really helped me in this position because we've had this great opportunity to upgrade and look at modernizing a lot of our communication platforms. And so that's really been a pretty big focus this past year. And so my accomplishments and goals for the next year are actually all on this slide because we have a lot of things kind of ongoing that we kind of got started, and we're going to continue to lean into these things over the next year. So the first one being the new Slack environment. So if you haven't been out there to check it out, please, you will need the invite link, which we'll make sure that we share out with you guys. So the reason we did this is to be able to have some more focused conversations, and especially as we're dealing with COVID-related challenges, we wanted a focused area to help you all find and share job opportunities and to connect with other sisters and have support and ideas around self-care and things like that. So while we do have Facebook and we have some other ways to connect with each other, we thought that Slack would be a great way to be able to go in and have a really focused conversation around very specific needs during this time. So there's also 2020 conference conversations ongoing. You can join in out there for that as well. So make sure and check that out. Other things that we have going on, we just went live with the new chapter spot portal. And that's going to kind of take the place of the sisters only area out on the public website. So it's all anything private or secure, that's all headed into that chapter spot portal. So a lot of the same content you had previously, that's all out there now, but with a new modern look and feel, should be a little easier to use. And please, if you haven't logged into that yet, please do so. You should have received an invite to do that over your email. Double check all of your contact information, make sure that that's all there so that you can receive newsletters and other important communications. And for those of you alum, we have a bunch of people out there who still need to update contact info. So tell your friends, tell everybody from your chapter to make sure and go out and do that. Let's see what else. So we also released a new distribution list app. So I know there's been a little bit of grief in the past over being able to get, you go in, you update your email address, and you're not getting the newsletter to that email. There was a slight delay previously in getting that done. So that new list, distribution list app is called Emma. That's going to make sure that we don't have those delays going forward, and integrates directly with our chapter spot portal. So doing all these things just to make sure we're getting you guys all the information that you need. We do have a new website in progress as well. So our public website, you may have noticed that has been down for a number of weeks. We did have an issue with one update, and it was really time to kind of get that updated anyway. So we are in the process of rolling out a brand new website, and we are working with Rashmi and the marketing team to make sure we've got a lot of our new kind of brand and ideas kind of flowing into that new website. So pretty excited about that too. That'll be coming soon. And let's see what else. We also have been we're going to be adding some additional support for you guys for chapter spot chapter sites as well. So your public sites for your specific chapter, those are all hosted through chapter spot, and please make sure and join the communication session to learn more about that. And I know we've had some questions around those chapter sites in needing or wanting to do more with them, and that's what we are going to talk about that in the communications session, and would love to hear from you guys. I know Gabby's been asking, please give us more feedback on what you guys want to be able to do with those sites. So now is your chance. Make sure you go to that session. And finally, I did want to give a big shout out to Gabby. As Kellen said, she's our communications director, and she is really the boots on the ground. She's the one executing and supporting the vision that we have for communications and all of these new platforms, and she's really done an amazing job with that, in addition to still making sure that all of our marketing is going out every day through Instagram and Facebook and the newsletters to you guys. As Kellen mentioned, it's a ton of work, so just wanted to give a shout out to Gabby as well. Okay. I think that was everything.
Thanks, Steph. So for everyone, if you would just wait with me for 1 second, I'm going to just pause the share. I want to switch this over because someone mentioned that the slides are a bit blurry, so I'm going to try to fix that for you right now.
And Kellen, I think the slides are available for download too, or they will be, right? If anyone
Correct.
wanted to grab those.
Yes, they will be.
While you're doing that, Kellen, I did want to point out, Gabby did put the link to join Slack in the chat. So if anybody wants to grab that real quick, she did add that out there for you guys.
Great. All right, hopefully this will be a little bit better for everyone. All right, so with that, Alex, our Vice President of Finance.
Looks good. The first couple slides I have are the financial update from 2019. A majority of our revenue is from contributions and grants, which are the dues that we get from actives and alum. So as you can see there, our total income for 2019 was $461,000. So as Kellen pointed out earlier, we are essentially a small business. So these numbers track percentage-wise within 5% of the same from last year. Last year's total revenue was $373,000. So we are growing as we go on. The next slide is our expenses. And again, those percentages are very similar year to year. We actually spent a little less money in 2019 than we did in 2018. So if anybody has any questions about those, just let me know. But this is our way of kind of being transparent with everyone. The next slide is a compilation of some of the accomplishments, which are pretty standard doing the budget. We did, using some of our resources and suggestions, we sourced and interviewed an outside bookkeeper. Maria Salvato will be our next bookkeeper, and Kathy Lyle actually mentioned her. So thank you, Kathy, for that suggestion. And this spring with COVID, we all knew that the chapters were going to be hit pretty hard financially. So we spent some time trying to figure out a way that we can keep the sorority running financially, but also giving some relief to our chapters. And we ended up cutting the active dues in half for spring, and it ended up saving around $50,000 to our active members. So some of the goals that I want to see happen over my next year is to standardize a budget template and an audit template for the chapters, just so we can make it pretty consistent and for the future. And another very common issue is when our new chapter is trying to figure out how to get bank accounts and set up tax information, to kind of get a toolkit together for them, so it's a much easier process. So again, if you have any questions or ideas, let me know.
Great, thanks, Alex. So now I'm gonna open this up to questions for me, Alex, Stephanie, or Helen. So let's look in the chat, see. Okay, so one of the first questions is for you, Alex. It's from China, and China, I know you sent me an email. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to respond to you. She wants to know, is there any way to lower dues for schools who are completely online for the fall? It's very hard to convince people to not go inactive this upcoming semester.
It's something that I've been trying to think about. The hard part is we do have to keep running as a business, and we're still going to be providing programming and our staff. So we can try and analyze it and see, but at this time we weren't planning on doing that, just because with the budget we still have expenses of trying to run the sorority.
Great, thanks, Alex. Okay, so the one question, can we expand candidate, and this is from Morgan McCandless. I think, Morgan, you are from the MOO chapter, am I right? Is there any way we can expand candidate dues across multiple terms this year? That way National still gets the money, but it's less of a daunting upfront cost. So Alex, do you want to take that too?
It's not something that we've looked at in the past. It's something I can analyze and maybe reach out to a few former VPs of finance to discuss logistics around that. The reason that the candidate dues are higher is there are some material costs that go into those dues, like your badges and the pearl pins and member material books that you get. But we can look into it, but there are material costs that we do have up front, so that's usually why we do it this way currently.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions. Anyone else? And you can feel free to unmute your microphone and ask as well. All right, I'll give you 5 more seconds for someone to send a question. Otherwise, you're welcome to email any of us, and we will happily get back to you.
I'm sorry, I do have a, are you going to post these slides afterwards, right?
We will, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we will move on. All right, so now for our Vice President of Collegiate Affairs, Sharon.
Hi everyone, as Kelly mentioned earlier, I'm Sharon Snyder from the Ohio Northern IOTA chapter. And it's been a busy year for Collegiate Affairs. Again, as VPCA, I am kind of the direct interface. I've had emails with lots of chapter presidents, the interface between council and chapters. So when we lost Colleen as our executive director back in the fall, thankfully Karen stepped in, but I'm sure some of you noticed there were some delays and hiccups getting chapter spot forms assigned. Karen and I tried to split some of those duties, and it was a lot. So thanks everyone for your patience as we kind of figured out who was doing what. Part of my normal duties as VPCA was to hold monthly check-in meetings with each RFD. So remember, each of you is assigned an RFD for your region. We recently expanded the regions, but it's a monthly thing. So like 10 hours of phone calls once a week, every month. The second half of, I guess the first half of 2020, second half of the academic year, I tried to do quarterly all RFD or just regional meetups so that the RFDs were able to network with each other and share ideas that would help more than just the chapters in their region a little bit easier. We had 3 RFDs who stepped down during this past academic year. West 2, that was my previous role. West 3 and East 1, like Helen mentioned, were all volunteers, and obviously not my position, but the other 2 RFDs had some family issues come up that they needed to step away from their role. So thankfully we had some other great alumni step up and fill those positions. As I mentioned, I either via email or actually a couple of chapters, we had phone calls, if there were big issues or concerns, whether it was, someone's chapter house getting broken into or questions and issues with deactivations. So I thank all of you for trusting me and your RFDs to reach out and let us help you navigate those situations. We also created an RFD Instagram account. So I think this Instagram account is following most of the chapter social media accounts, but if it's not, follow us, feel free to reach out. This is a way to kind of keep track of what you guys are doing on social media and to, kind of offer our own council social media platform as well. And then as you all hopefully know by now, we did restructure regions for this academic year. We have 11 regions now. One of those we split into co-RFDs, so 12 RFDs I'll be managing to hopefully break down their workload a little bit and give everyone some more individualized attention. We also updated the RFD handbook and training. One benefit of the pandemic is that we had a lot more time to do the RFD onboarding. And so now your RFDs have a Gmail account in addition to an @Phi Sigma Rho account. And like many of you have Gmail accounts to pass on from president to president, for example, our RFDs now have that, and hopefully there'll be a little more history and continuity with that. So upcoming for this school year, the 2020-2021 year, so now with 12 RFDs, I don't have time to do 12 one-hour phone calls. So we'll have regional coordinators to some of our more experienced RFDs. We're also trying to start the regional leadership conferences. Some of our alums may remember this. So thanks to Rebecca Palmer for really being a driver behind that. So we'll try to get those off the ground at some point this academic year. One thing that kind of got dropped with our executive director departure last year was the chapter handbook webinar. That's not going to happen this year. I'm going to take that onto my plate at least for the fall, and you'll have an update with that with updated contact information, updated links. Hopefully it'll be a more relevant resource that will be really important for you guys with all kinds of due dates and checklists and things like that. And again, mention that RFD.Phi Sigma Rho Instagram accounts. I would love to start highlighting chapter accomplishments and then also what the RFDs are doing. So, if there's a really cool Greek life awards or, sister things that you want to highlight, feel free to tag our, not only the official sorority Instagram, but also the RFD Instagram to help us share your good news. And then finally, with the increase in number of RFDs, we're hoping that we can engage more with smaller chapters or chapters who have maybe been struggling a little bit. Obviously, we don't want anyone to fail, and we try to allocate as much of our time and resources to assisting everyone with that. So that's something that I think it's going to be a bit of a growing process for me and the RFD team this year. But we're here to help you. I just want to reiterate that, myself and the RFDs, that is literally our job, is to help you guys as active sisters and to help you guys be as successful as possible. So those are my goals for this year. Hopefully I can check most of those off and have some great accomplishments for State of the Sorority in 2021. Thanks, Ellen.
Awesome. Thanks, Sharon. And next, we're going to have our VP of Alumni Affairs, Mary Beth.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Mary Beth White, and I just stepped into this role about 2 months ago from Jenna, who you'll hear from next. So the accomplishments thus far in the last year, we're creating a National VP of Alumni Affairs Facebook account. And that account is really being used to join all of the Alumni Association and organization Facebook groups to be able to better share and connect all the alumni sisters to each other and to the right Facebook groups. So if you're looking for a specific area or region and want to know if there's a group, feel free to shoot me an email and I can help you make that connection. The other thing was there's a policy update. So the policy update is to make it more simple to create an alumni association. And with that, you basically can use the current CBMPs, the national CBMPs. So to start your association, you just select a chair. And from that chair and having that contact information and a voting delegate, you can become an active alumni association. And that leads to kind of my next goals. So the next goals are using those at simplified policy to create an alumni association for every single chapter that has at least 5 alumni so that all alumni have a voice in the voting. And then from there, just creating an online resource, very potentially through the portal, to share ideas and best practices that are currently being done in alumni organizations and associations, so that really, truly, the sisterhood becomes a lifetime sisterhood, and that we can all stay engaged and find ways, both virtually currently, and then hopefully soon in person again, and make it a lifelong sisterhood. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Okay, so next we have our Vice President of Expansion, Jenna.
Hi, everyone. I am Jenna. I am the Vice President of Expansion. I recently transitioned into this role from the VP of Alumni Affairs. I am a Delta alumni graduate. So some of the accomplishments that this position, myself and my predecessor, Kate, have accomplished in this year. We've installed 4 new chapters, bringing our total chapter count to 45 chapters in 27 states across the country. The Alpha Sigma chapter at the University of Nevada, the Alpha Tau chapter at Northeastern University, the Alpha Upsilon chapter at Cleveland State University, and the Alpha Phi chapter at Texas A&M University. We also had our first experience with virtual chapter installation this year due to the COVID crisis, and I'm very grateful for the chapters, Texas A&M and Cleveland State, for being so willing to participate in that process. We are also currently working with one colony, the MIT colony. They are doing really well, also dealing with the COVID crisis, and you'll hear a little bit more about them later. And I'm very happy to say that we have identified a couple of interest groups, and I think we're going to be getting some new colonies very soon. Kelly, next slide, please. So a couple of the things I'm going to be working on here in the future is revamping our expansion process. So right now we have some manuals and we have some resources, but they're definitely dispersed, a little confusing, and for an alumni to take on the role as a colony educator, a little bit overwhelming. So I'm going to be creating some virtual colony manuals, some new PR materials to sound out to schools to get the College of Engineering they're excited about Phi Sigma Rho, and really work in some virtual expansion considerations. I think this is really important not only for COVID, but as we grow as an organization, we have to be able to virtually support chapters across the country so that we're not, boots on the ground at every location that we have a new chapter. We're going to continue our expansion efforts. So my goal is that by the end of my term, I'll have identified 5 new campuses for potential interest groups. I'm going to be working on targeting some specific schools, schools that have a large number of women in engineering, schools that hold prestige for their engineering colleges, schools that have great Greek life, schools that would bring diversity to our organization. Along those lines, if there are alumni who have a college in their area and would like to help expand to that college, please let me know. Despite COVID-19, we want to keep expanding and welcoming new sisters into our group. And then along those lines, we're also going to be leveraging existing relations like our alumni, other Greek organizations, other engineering organizations as a way to find a footing into new campuses. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jenna. So I'm going to pause here for questions for Sharon, Mary Beth, and Jenna. Jenna, I think we have one question. I think Helen is going to need to weigh in on whether or not we can say anything. Can we tell them where the interest groups are? Jenna, can you tell them?
So obviously everything in this presentation is confidential, so I would ask that you don't, just because these are not official interest groups yet. But one of them is at the University of Utah. I am very excited about that group. I think they have a lot of drive. The second one I'm going to keep private just because I think it's probably less of a perspective, just because the college is mainly associate degrees. And I don't know that we're going to have an interest group there. But they are interested, which is exciting.
Great. Awesome. Anyone else have any questions for Sharon, Mary Beth, or Jenna? Okay, so the Alpha Epsilon delegate asked, do you have a plan on how to handle campuses that have existing AOE chapters?
I can try and answer this a little bit. If everyone could mute if they're not, thank you. Our current agreement that we have is that universities that have a chapter of AOE, we will not reach out to without, I guess I'm going to call it like an interest from someone on the campus. So I think this is where, so basically if I don't have someone reach out to me from that school, I wouldn't actively pursue that university. So one of the things that we can do is if we have like a triangle chapter, for example, at a university with AOE, they might get some girls at that school interested in Phi Sigma Rho and have them reach out to us. And then we could leverage that to start a chapter. So that's really our growth strategy right now for that. I think that there's probably some discussions will have to happen in the future, but that is our current, is to really leverage relationships we already have.
Okay. So there was a question about AOE, Alpha Omega Epsilon. They are another sorority that started back around the same time as Phi Sigma Rho at Marquette as an engineering sorority. And they now accept more than just engineering, it's engineering and STEM. Hopefully that answers that question. So yes, so a question was asked about what the timeline is for the website being finished. And I will say that, you know, to add on to what Stephanie said, we had an issue with our website provider, and they inadvertently deleted our website, hence why it has been down so long. So we are trying very hard to put one in place as quickly as possible. We have a marketing company involved in helping us do this quickly and do it well. And it will also have, the content will be in line with our new marketing plan that Rashmi has worked on. Gabby mentioned, our communications director, that we're looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks now for a new website. unfortunately, it takes quite a while to pull together a website from scratch. So, any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, then Alex, could you maybe just let the membership know right now what your plan is as far as sending out an email about dues for candidates?
Yeah, I will send out an email within the next few weeks about what our plans are for fall dues and to try and address any questions that you guys have had.
Great, wonderful. So I'll give everyone 5 more seconds. Anyone else have any questions for Sharon, Mary Beth, or Jenna? No? Okay, moving on. Our next person is going, oh, wait a minute. Nope. Our next person is going to be our Vice President of Membership, Caitlin Nellis. Caitlin?
Thank you, Kellen. Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Millis, and I am the VP of Membership. So I'm in charge of recruitment, membership education, and ritual. So basically everything going virtual, which has been a real good time. In this past year, I created some membership education and recruitment resources for those chairs. I think it's been one thing we've really been stressing is kind of having a united front with our organization, and I thought it would be great for the recruitment chairs at chapters and the membership education chairs at chapters to be able to talk to each other about what their plans are. A lot of questions that I get really could be answered by other chapters, so it's kind of reduced some a little bit of backup, because sometimes I get overwhelmed with emails and my response times are slow. So it's been great watching everybody kind of communicate with each other. That being said, if there's any MEMED or recruitment chairs on the call that aren't in those groups, just shoot me an email. I also have been working on the membership, the second edition of the membership education manual. It has not been published yet, so don't freak out. You're not missing out on anything. So that's my plan for this upcoming semester. There aren't any major changes to it, but it is kind of updated so that it's more virtually accessible, I guess. It's a little bit easier to run virtual ritual and membership membership education. I also created the virtual induction, initiation, and installation plans during COVID-19, and conducted, we as a council conducted the virtual ritual for all the chapters. And I'm currently working on establishing a virtual ritual for fall 2020. I promise that it will be better than last semester. I wrote those in 8 days, so I promise it will be a much better, the rituals will be much better this semester. I also am creating a virtual, or have created a virtual recruitment plan for this upcoming fall that involved appointing Melanie Larson as our recruitment director. So she's going to kind of take that responsibility away from me so I can focus on membership education. She's going to be the point person for recruitment. And then I also appointed over 30 alumni volunteers as recruitment liaisons. Every single chapter has a recruitment liaison, as well as MIT. So thank you so much to all those volunteers. You are making a huge difference. And then I also served as the Housing Corporation liaison. So I've been attending those meetings and kind of being the National Council representative there. So for my next year, my goals are to finally publish the second edition of the Membership Education Manual, which includes updating all of the slides, the PowerPoint slides that the MEMEDs are using, to update the membership education activities, and then also to update the modules, since I know a lot of that is outdated. So we will be rolling that out. And then I would also like to appoint a permanent recruitment director, so that we can kind of really incorporate all of this new marketing material, and hopefully the recruitment director will be kind of take the lead on that. And then we'll also vote on making virtual ritual that we are not dealing with COVID-19, and make virtual ritual an option for extenuating circumstances.
Great, thanks, Caitlin. And I would encourage everyone, as you think of questions, to please put them in the chat. It just makes the question section go a lot quicker. So next we'll have our Vice President of Program, Kathleen Vijay-Rogia.
Hi. So over the past year, I worked on completing the travel subsidies and LEAP subsidies from convention last year. So we had quite a few of your chapters that submitted for the travel subsidy. We actually only had 2 chapters submit for the LEAP subsidy last year, which you guys were all eligible for. If you were at the session just before this that Janelle shared in the foundation, you can submit for the chapter grant through LEAP as well. So make sure you think about that if you get one member of your chapter LEAP certified these 10 days. We also, I facilitated some of the webinars back in 2019 we had one with Taylor Coco on recruitment. Elena Chapman came and shared about how to go from maybe a bachelor's or a master's degree all the way to your PhD and what does that mean. We had a couple other webinars as well. I recruited a new Service with Sigmund director. So Celine was all geared up and ready to go, and then COVID hit and we didn't actually get to have our Service with Sigmund last year. So, but she was all ready to go, so yay. And we also, I recruited a new Resumania director, Tina. Thank you so much as well. So we had a brief hiatus of Resumania, and Tina picked that back up and ran with it. So that was successful in the spring most recently. And I organized the programming that you guys are experiencing that started on Thursday and it's going through next weekend. And just as an aside, we have more speaker sessions in this conference, even though it's virtual, than we've ever had for any conference in the past. So that's quite amazing that we've had so many sisters step up to lead speaker sessions, as well as the fact that I was able to procure an external keynote speaker. Stephanie Slocum was amazing. If you missed her session on confidence, please, when we share the recordings, go ahead and watch that. So go ahead to the next slide. So upcoming plans, as I mentioned, we are offering the LEAP subsidies and the grant for this conference. So Janelle mentioned it. If you get LEAP certified, we can submit that and you can get some of your chapter's registration fee refunded through that grant. Basically, you have to attend the base, building block, and top tier, and then just submit a report basically saying how will you share this back with your chapter and in what ways will it be a benefit and how do you plan on using your learnings. So it's not hard and it's just basic form that we'll be able to fulfill, so feel free to reach out. We'd also like to figure out how to do a potentially a virtual Service with Sigmund week. Or in the past, it's been 2-week long event. I know we're still trying to socially distance. I'm trying to figure out some things. I know, as Kellen mentioned earlier, I'm highly active with our scouts, and our scouts have had virtual service events that they've been running. So I'm going to see what we could do to maybe leverage some of that and see what other ideas you as actives might have on how to participate with the Service with Sigmund event. And we were also planning, coming in September, we are planning for a fall Resumania event. So Tina will be leading that as well. She has some plans in the works and it's probably going to be coming out in an email just after this conference closes. So that's coming up. And I'd like to work with the RFDs to see how can we help the chapters facilitate maybe some regional LEAP conferences. I think right now we don't know if we're going to be able to do any in-person events yet, right? But are there options out there that we could help get some regional conferences set up so that if there are opportunities to meet in person, that can happen. Or even if it is virtual, are there still ways that within a region, sisters can start to meet each other virtually as well as benefit from some LEAP programming? And obviously, in addition to all of that, we're working on programming for Convention 2021 next year. So that should be really exciting. And obviously, I'm getting a lot of ideas and feedback from the sessions we're seeing this conference to help for planning for next year.
Great, thanks, Kathleen. And so next we will have Allison Lenhoff, our National Council Advisor.
Hi, everyone. As Kellen said, I'm Allison Lenhoff. For those of you who don't understand the National Council Advisor position, this is a non-voting advisory role on council. It's typically filled by the outgoing and past national president. Due to the inability of Becky to serve in the role, I was asked if I would come back. I did this previously after my term as national president. So I am serving in the role this year. Accomplishments, as I said, the biggest thing for this is that I provide general advisory support for the national president and the rest of National Council. As Helen mentioned, I'm working on the proposed CB changes to add the judicial board to the governing documents and continuing the development work on a judicial proceedings manual. The future goals for the next year is to continue that advisory support to National Council and especially the president, helping them with history of why things are the way they are, what has council done in the past to handle situations that they've come across, and to implement the judicial board and judicial proceedings manual. The other part of my job is that I am the chair of the nominating committee. So the big accomplishment for this past year is that we have a new committee selected. It's myself as the chair. Lexi Hieronymus, who is the foundation secretary, is on the committee as the foundation representative. And then the rest of the members are people who have been either very involved in the sorority or foundation or have experience working in nominating roles before or hiring. And new this year, we've added what we called a new member, either someone who is close to graduating or has recently graduated to give the perspective of the active membership. So the other members of this committee are Monique Chinchar, who has served as VP of Collegiate Affairs and Alumni Affairs, Katie Cook, who served 2 terms on National Council as the VP of Communications, Nikki Little, who beyond being national president, national council advisor, and former nominating committee chair, has also been VP of programming and was the original LEAP director for the sorority. So very involved for many years in the organization. We have Rebecca Palmer, who is currently the Midwest 3 RFD and also served as an RFD in the previous term. And then we have Marissa Bertuccio, who is the former Oregon State Sigma chapter president, as being the active member or new grad. She just graduated in this spring. So there are future goals for the committee. The planning is underway to conduct the nomination process for the next National Council and for the open positions on the foundation board. For those of you who don't know, National Council changes over every 2 years. Half of the foundation board changes over every 2 years, with their terms being 4 years long. We anticipate that nominations will open in January 2021, so look forward to seeing what kind of nominations we get to be able to vet and slate a great leadership team for the sorority and the foundation going forward. And I miss this in the accomplishments, but part of, while the bigger thing that we do is the elections, we also do work on any appointments if asked by National Council or the Foundation Board of Directors. So we were enlisted to recommend the candidates for the VP of Alumni Affairs position that was open earlier this year. And so we will be available to do that if asked for by National Council or the Foundation Board going forward.
Thanks, Allison. So now I have a section for questions. If anyone has questions for Caitlin, Kathleen, or Allison. Caitlin, maybe you want to just let everyone know what you typed in the chat about recruitment liaisons and songs during virtual.
Yep. So have chapters received info on their recruitment liaisons? Not yet. We had a little bit of, we meant to send this out last week, but we had a little logistics issue. And then Melanie also moved across the country. So by the end of this week, the liaisons will receive the chapter info and the chapter will receive the liaison info, and the liaisons will be instructed to contact the chapter by the end of the week. That was a mouthful. But you should hear from your liaison by the end of the week. As far as songs, Lauren asked, we have virtual initiations again this fall. Is there any way we could record the songs in person and play them during initiations? Unfortunately, that's not something we can do now, but part of writing the updated virtual ritual for this semester, I'm giving some options for chapters who want the songs to be included. The main issue is that when you have a bunch of people singing at once over Zoom, it's just creates this like horrible echo noise, and it just doesn't work. So I do list some options in the ritual so that chapters can have those as part of the ritual if they choose to or if they're able to. And then once we vote on an official virtual ritual, it'll be something I explore a little bit further. But right now, we won't be able to do that.
Great, thanks, Caitlin. Anyone else have any questions for Kathleen or Allison? Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to move forward. As you all know, we had some technical issues in the beginning, so we are running 10 minutes behind, but we're going to try to keep to the schedule with regards to the legislative session, which we will start now. Our first well, I will let Helen go ahead and open the legislative session.
I motion to, So the objective of this proposal, The objective of this proposal is to motion in light of the side chapters and inquiry committee's findings and proposals as stated in the appendix to this proposal that was sent out. This motion amends the motion made by the 16th National Council to suspend the charter of the side chapter with specific guidelines on the suspension timeline and the chapter status once the suspension is lifted. So the proposed motion is the National Council motions to amend its original motion to state National Council motions to suspend the side chapter's charter for a period of 3 years, wherein that period began on December 20th, 2018. Upon the end of the suspension period on December 20th, 2021, the side chapter status will revert back to colony status. The side chapter will be referred to as the California Polytechnic Pomona Colony, and the colony will go through colony education led by 2 colony educators who are not members of the side chapter, and 1 colony educator who is a member of the alpha chapter of the side chapter, alpha class of the side chapter. After successfully completing colony education, the California Polytechnic Pomona Colony shall be reinstalled as a side chapter and the charter shall be restored.
Thanks. Helen, point of order. Can we, before we move forward with this proposal, can we explain to everyone how voting is going to happen?
Yeah, so as everyone knows, all the active chapters and the Alumni Association should have a delegates. I will be posting a Google form ballot to the chat, and then all the delegates and only the delegates will submit a vote. I'll give you guys 3 to 5 minutes, and after we reach quorum and we make sure that all the votes have been submitted, we'll count them and we'll let you guys know what the result is. We need a majority of the members voting on the proposal for changes to the bylaws and policies, and 3/4 vote for any changes to the Constitution, which we will not be doing at this session.
Great, thanks. And just to clarify, yes, council will be voting. And so I am going to ask Sharon Snyder to, actually, before we start, before we start, Helen, I'd like to move to adopt the agenda of this legislative session.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Can you please write your opposal in the chat right now? I will give you 30 seconds. Okay, none opposed. We will move forward with the agenda that is in these slides, and it was also included in the legislative proposal with the addendum that was put out via email saying that there will be no vote on the major proposal tonight. It will only be a discussion, and that will be sent out for a mail vote. One point of order for everyone for tonight, because it was brought to our attention that the quarter schools do not start until October, and because of that, the mail vote will go out in the beginning of October and not in September. That said, Sharon, can you please go ahead and officially make this motion? Which I think.
Okay, yeah, so I would like to move, okay, sorry, there's a lot of things going on here. I'd like to move to vote on the side chapter proposal as stated on this slide.
I second. Discussion.
Kellen, there's a question in the chat about what a nay vote means on the proposal.
Sharon?
So I guess if you're voting no on this proposal, I mean, the proposal as it states, I guess you would have a problem with either, or you would like to change the length of the side chapter's suspension. I think that's really the only thing that looks like it's up for debate, discussion, modification on this is that timeline, and then I suppose the status of the chapter at the end of that suspension period.
Would anyone else, would any other delegates like to be recognized to there is a question in the chat from Abby, but Abby, you are not your AA delegate. What is the current status going to be?
Right, so now, as of right now, the side chapter is currently suspended. So what this proposal is saying is that at the end of their suspension period, they're basically going back to square one. They're going to start at the colony period again, recruit new members, go through the education process. That education process will be guided by the normal colony educators, but then also, since this was an existing chapter, they will have a member of the Alpha class, the founders of side chapter there, they would help them go through that education process. So again, so you have a comment from the Alpha Epsilon Alumni Association delegate. If we reject this proposal, what would happen? Basically, the original proposal was brought up for amending a convention last year to nail down the suspension timeline. If you had access to the minutes or the notes from convention last year, there was a committee put together to look at this. So that's why the proposed motion in light of the side chapter inquiry committee's report. So National Council did not come up with this 3-year period. 3 years was chosen by the committee. That committee was made up of, oh, sorry, I'm trying to find
I can help you with
right
that.
now. Okay,
it's
yeah,
Jamie,
Helen, if you've got them.
It was Emily Nguyen, Janie Han, Eliska Jepson, Taylor Coco,
And Kara Ray.
and Kara
Yeah.
Ray.
So members of the side chapter and other alums from the sorority. So it wasn't people only involved with Cal Poly, and it wasn't just people with, you know, no stake in the chapter, not Cal Poly alumni. Okay, so question from the Epsilon, but a nay vote mean that they simply stay suspended indefinitely. Kellen, do you happen to have the original motion?
I can point you to the bylaw. Bylaws
Okay.
state that you cannot be suspended for more than 5 years.
Okay.
At the
so-
5-year point, there must be a vote on whether or not to deactivate the chapter.
Okay,
Also,
so
can I
that's,
can I just make one point of order? If you are typing in the Whova chat, we're not seeing it in the Zoom chat. So can you just please make sure that you type it in there? Because I think the Zeta Alum Association asked a question.
okay. So then to clarify, they're not going to stay suspended indefinitely. It would be that 5-year period. A question from the Omicron delegate: are the side chapter active members and local alumni interested in starting over at the colony? So again, this recommendation was made. The side chapter committee talked to alumni. They talked to actives or formerly actives, the sisters who are moved to alumni status at the start of the suspension period. You know, they did a lot of legwork to see kind of what the feelings were of people who are actually going to be involved with this chapter, either, you know, as sisters, former sisters, or alumni. So, you know, like I said, they did a lot of research into what was going to be best for the chapter and for the individuals involved with that. Okay. The committee asked that to say, okay. Are there, Kellen, do you have other questions from the other app? I just have the app up trying to find stuff now.
Right. So we had one question from the Zeta Alum Association. I didn't see the whole question, but it was something to the effect of, what if after the colony or during the colony period, if there are insufficient number of colony members, what happens?
That's a good question. I guess I'm not sure what happens if if that's the case with, you know, if you like the MIT colony or something, if they would just get a chance like the next recruitment cycle, or if that's kind of the end of the line until somebody comes back and says, we want to restart the chapter. Yeah.
2 years. You have a 2-year period.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kellen. Ms. Kellen's the president and formed VP standards, and I am not.
Does anyone from the committee want to make a statement?
I know that somebody just typed something into the chat box from Jenny.
Janie.
Hey, this is Jenny. I just wanted to clarify that on what we were discussing for the length of the suspension, it was just more we really didn't change anything on what was originally proposed. It was just to clarify, and the 3 years was suggested by National Council, just to kind of let whoever was remaining graduate out and finish, and then it would be essentially a new colony if it were to be started again. I don't know if that clarifies the question from before.
I think it does. So in the interest of time, I would like to move to close debate and vote on this.
Second.
Great.
Can we get a roll call of the delegates?
Okay. Do you want to do it, Helen, or do you want me?
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Alpha chapter.
Present.
Here. Beta chapter.
Here.
Is there multiple? Oh, for active chapters right now.
I'm here.
Okay. Epsilon. Okay, or sorry, Gamma, my bad. Alpha, Beta, so Gamma chapter.
Here. I'm here.
Delta chapter.
Here.
Epsilon chapter. Zeta chapter. Eta chapter.
Here, sorry.
You're fine. Theta chapter. Iota chapter.
Here.
Kappa chapter.
Here.
Lambda chapter. Mu chapter.
Here.
New chapter. Xi chapter.
Here.
Omicron chapter.
Here.
Oh, and new chapter is here. But mic's not working. Omicron chapter.
Yeah, I'm here.
Pi chapter.
Here.
Rho chapter.
Here.
Sigma chapter.
Here.
Tau chapter.
Here.
Upsilon chapter. Phi chapter.
Here.
Chi chapter.
Here.
Psi chapter.
Here.
Omega chapter.
Here.
Lauren, what chapter are you from? Epsilon. Okay. Alpha chapter.
Here.
Alpha beta chapter. Alpha gamma chapter. Alpha delta chapter.
Here.
Alpha epsilon chapter.
Here.
And alpha gamma is here, just mic isn't working. Alpha zeta chapter. Alpha
Here.
alpha eta chapter.
Here.
Alpha theta chapter.
Here.
Alpha iota chapter.
Here.
Alpha kappa chapter.
Here.
Alpha lambda chapter.
Here.
Alpha mu chapter. Jennifer, I'll go over all the ones in the chat afterwards. You're fine, Celia. Alpha nu chapter. Alpha Xi chapter.
Here.
Alpha Omicron chapter.
Here.
Alpha Pi chapter.
Here.
Alpha Rho chapter.
Here.
Alpha Sigma chapter.
Here.
Alpha Tau chapter.
Here.
Alpha Upsilon chapter.
Here.
And Alpha Phi chapter. At the time of vote, I will send a Google form into the Zoom chat. All right, so going over the ones that were in the chat. Gamma, no, Zeta is here. Nu is here. Beta is here. Epsilon, Alpha Beta, Alpha Gamma, Eta. Is there anyone else that I have not mentioned that is an active chapter delegate that has not said that they're here so far? All right, moving on to Alpha, the Alumni Association. The alumni are voting on this. Alpha Nu is here too. Shut up. Alpha Alumni Association.
Here.
Beta Alumni Association.
Here.
Gamma. Gamma's here in chat. Delta. Epsilon.
Here.
Zeta.
Here.
Delta is here.
Okay, Delta is here. I think I heard Zeta was also here.
Yes.
Eta Alumni Association. Here. Theta.
Here.
Iota. Here. Lambda.
Here.
Mu.
Here.
Pi.
Here.
Sigma.
Here.
Upsilon. I think Chrissy said that she, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Chi. Chi association. Psi.
Here.
Alpha beta.
Here.
Alpha gamma.
Here.
Alpha epsilon.
Here.
Chi is here. And alpha zeta
Here.
and alpha upsilon.
Here.
For National Council President,
Here.
National Council VP of Standards, National Council VP of Communications, National Council VP of Finance,
Here.
National Council VP of Collegiate Affairs,
Here.
National Council VP of Alumni Affairs,
Here.
National Council VP of Expansion,
Here.
National Council VP of Programming,
Here.
National Council VP of Membership.
Here.
And in the chat, Alpha Beta, the Alumni Association here, and Alpha Gamma Alumni Association is also here. That's everyone in roll call. Do we already move to vote?
We did not move to vote, no.
Okay.
We moved to closed discussion and then you had roll call.
Okay. I motion to vote on the side chapter proposal,
Second?
Second that?
and I'll put the link in the chat. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. Just let me know. Oh, Kellen, we can see your screen. Just let me know if you have not voted by the time in 3 minutes. Yeah, and would just send it to me directly, privately on Zoom. All right, it's been about 3 minutes. Has anyone not voted so far that needs to vote? All right, the motion passes.
That's great. All right, moving on.
So the next next motion that we'll vote on is the MIT colony proposal. The objective is to give the MIT colony more time to complete its colonization requirements and allow the colony to recruit more members when in-person classes resume. According to our CBP, the colonies must become chapters within 2 years. So this is just extending that time because of all the COVID stuff going on. So the proposed motion is to, in light of the complications created by COVID-19, we seek to extend the MIT colony's colonization period for an additional 2 years. I motion to discuss this proposal.
Second.
Kellen, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Point of order. I think we need to motion first. And I think that's Jenna's motion to make.
Oh, my bad.
I move to extend the colonization period of MIT by 2 years.
Second.
Okay, we move to discussion. We go to discussion. This is not part of the mail vote, Ally. This is a vote on extending the MIT colonization period. Melanie Larson is on the line, and I think she is the colony educator for MIT. Melanie, did you want to say anything?
Hi, sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie. I'm a beta alum of 2018. I'm the current MIT colony educator. I've been with them for the past couple months. Basically, this situation has come down to a lot of complications the school was giving them at first, and now originally we were going to install them this spring, and then COVID hit. And due to the way that recruitment works on their campus, we were not able to meet that installation requirement. So now all we need is just more time to get the right number of girls. The girls have done absolutely everything they're supposed to. They're so incredibly gung-ho for this and excited, and they keep pushing through every single challenge that the universe seems to be giving them right now. So all this is giving them that little extra time that COVID took from them to get where they need to be fully installed. We already have plans drawn out for everything they need to do, how to recruit the right number of girls, even virtually. They only need a very few more. So yeah, they would love the little extra time that they need, and hopefully you guys will give it to them.
Any further discussion? Okay, I move to close discussion.
Second.
Move to vote on this.
Second. It's been about 3 minutes. Has everyone submitted that needs to submit?
It looks like there was one issue with the form.
You can go ahead and send me the vote. Just private, make sure you private messages to me. Any other issues with the form? Okay, the motion passes.
All right, that's wonderful. So now on to our next discussion point. These next three items are going to be discussed loosely, and the reason we are doing this is because we had received a lot of feedback at convention last year that there wasn't enough time to discuss proposals. And given the fact that we made this conference virtual very quickly in response to COVID, and things are being done very last minute, and we are going to be sending these out for mail vote, we're giving everyone an opportunity to take a couple minutes now to weigh in on any of these proposals. So it's 8:40 right now. We have I'm going to give 10 minutes or so to discuss this major proposal. If you want to be recognized to speak, if you could, please write it in the chat. Okay, the Epsilon active delegate, you're recognized.
Hi, so I know I put some of my concerns in the session Q&A before this, but when I first read through the proposal, it sounded to me like we were going to, like you could accept any major. So I initially went to like English, arts, business, something like that. So I think the wording should be changed to like non-approved STEM majors, if that makes sense.
The Omicron active delegate is recognized.
Yeah, hi. So, I think that expanding the list of majors could be very, very positive for our sorority overall, especially because, you know, we're living in such an interdisciplinary world that, you know, it's important that even non-majors kind of have an understanding, you know, feel welcome in STEM spaces. And I think letting in a limited number of other majors really goes a long way for that. For example, like our president right now she started as a STEM major, but she's an economics major, and she's had such a huge impact on our chapter. And it's kind of making me think, like, who else are we missing in our sisterhood because of what major they chose? I think this could be a very, very positive change. Thanks.
Alpha Epsilon, you recognized? Alpha Epsilon AA delegate.
Hi, I'm the alumni delegate from Alpha Epsilon, and I think that since this is just a temporary movement, I know a lot of people are hesitant because it has really open wording and you could read it to mean any major, but I think we all know that this sisterhood is for people with similar experiences, and that it's made for engineers and people with experiences like that. So it's really just a way to help us recruit STEM majors. And at least for us at Illinois, we're the only campus that has to directly compete with AOE. That's why I asked a question about them before. And they welcome all STEM majors, and that was a point that we always had trouble defending to a lot of people was, well, why don't you welcome physics? Why don't you welcome chemistry, biology? So that would be something that the active would be able to use in their recruitment.
Great. The new active delegate's microphone is not working, but she wants to ask how this proposal will affect chapters that already have approval of non-engineering majors. Will we also be allowed to take 10% of new members that are non-engineering, or will that 10% apply to non-approved members? You would be allowed to take 10% of new members that are non-engineering. So it's of any major, engineering, non-engineering, STEM, it wouldn't really matter. Hopefully that answers that question. The Alpha Lambda active president would like to speak.
I'm sorry, did you say Alpha Rho or Alpha Lambda?
I said Alpha Lambda.
Yes, hi. So I guess a question I had was regarding the rounding with this. If this would, because it mentions 10%, would it be something that once a candidate class has reached 15 that you could then have 2 non-engineering TNMs? Another question I have is regarding the marketing of this. Because it is such a small amount, I feel like it'd be difficult to open market. So is there suggestions for a way we would go about it if this is passed?
There is no rounding. As far as the marketing, we have not discussed that yet. I skipped over the Alpha Rho. If everyone could try to keep it to 30 seconds, that'd be great, because there are a lot of people who want to talk.
Hi, I would just like to say we are a small chapter, and that means that we get maybe 6 recruits each time, and I feel like just limiting us to 1 non-engineering major would kind of make it feel less welcoming to the non-engineering STEM majors, because I know personally I am no longer an engineering major. And if I was asked to join an engineering sorority, I would feel kind of weird about it, being the only non-engineering student in my new member class. And then also, I just wanted to make sure that this is a stepping stone and not a compromise with the 19 proposal.
Okay. I cannot speak to whether it's a stepping stone or a compromise. Omega chapter, you're recognized. Oh, I'm sorry, first new chapter, you are recognized.
Oh, sorry. Hey, so I guess my feelings kind of on this is I know we're really focused on diversity and inclusion now, which I'm like super pumped about. I think that's really exciting. And I think a way to expand that would be to be more inclusive of other majors and maybe like be less hard on the 10%. So then, because not just engineers, but all STEM or women in STEM majors face a lot of similar struggles to engineers. So not being super hard on the 10% could create a welcoming space for those women. Yeah.
Thanks, Morgan. Omega, you're recognized.
Hi, so I guess my feelings have already somewhat been addressed by members from other chapters, but I also come from a chapter where we get maybe 6 people every recruitment cycle. And as the Omega chapter's like previous recruitment director, I know that we market ourselves as an engineering organization, and I'm just also curious about how we'd market ourselves to other like majors, because then like how do we choose who we want to join our organization who's not an engineer. Like that just seems a little bit selective to me, and I don't want to alienate other majors.
Okay. I have time for about 3 or 4 more. So I'm going to do Alpha Zeta AA delegate.
Yeah, how was the 10% decided on? Is there a reason for that number, or was it arbitrary, or?
Arbitrary. Xi chapter, you're recognized.
Sorry, I'm want clarification on on some of the things that are been said, because I'm still very confused because my chapter already allows non-engineers on the approved list. So is it 10% after the approved list, or is it just 10% based on the approved list?
It is 10% for anyone not on the approved list.
Not on the approved list. Okay. So math majors don't qualify for the 10% rule then?
Is math approved at your chapter?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, and then would it be the bids or the candidate class itself? Because my chapter only gives around 7 bids, so we can't even round up to 10% at that point because it's not even one full person. So
right, I should probably put the wording. It's 1 person or 10%.
Okay.
So in your case, it would be 1 person.
So would it only, and does that count? So if I gave 3 bids to 10 and let's say 5 people didn't take it that were engineers, so does it have to be bids or the candidate class itself?
Candidate class itself.
So if that was to happen and we did get an uneven number, would we have to tell the people that we gave bids to that they no longer get bids because we no longer hit the quota?
So you are asking lots of great questions. I would love to know if anyone thinks that this is not a good proposal and we should maybe not put it out there and instead have a larger discussion about how to handle this.
I mean, I think a larger discussion would be good because I think there's a lot of different things we need to consider.
Anyone else want to speak to that?
I would like to second that. Continue the discussion and review this in a larger group.
Okay. Am I hearing from all of the chapters that are on here that you all want to talk about this? Okay. We will, okay, yeah. And I'm also seeing it from UMA, from the Alpha Alumni Association. A lot of the other alumni associations are asking for this as well. So we will withdraw this proposal and we will create a consortium to discuss this issue. If anyone feels I will work with the chapters to get delegates to this consortium. From the alumni side of things, if you feel passionately about this or you would like to be involved, please let me or Helen know. There is a question as to whether or not we can have a session later at convention. I will convene with National Council and we'll see if that would make sense. The next proposal that we're going to be discussing is the addition of non-binary members and permitting the recruitment of those members that identify as non-binary. This is the language that's being suggested. This This proposal was created in response to requests from multiple chapters for clarification on whether they could recruit non-binary members. Is there a discussion? Would anyone like to be recognized to speak? All right, Alpha Kappa, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I personally am in favor of this. I think that we have a responsibility to be more inclusive. And since Greek life was founded in traditionally gendered society, and as we're seeing more of a shift away from that, it's not fair to expect that non-binary people would have no option to join a sorority or fraternity. The people I know who are in the College of Engineering face a lot of the same discrimination for being non-binary that we face for being female. And I personally don't think that it changes the chapter. I understand the concern about calling it a sisterhood, but if non-binary people are choosing to join a gendered organization, they've made the decision that that's something they're comfortable with, and it's not really our place to make a decision on what they're comfortable with their own gender.
Thank you. Alpha Lambda, you're recognized.
Hi, I was reading a paper recently about the use of the term women spelt with an X. You might have seen it before. It's usually spelled WOMXN. And what this paper was talking about was someone who was in a gender studies program. They had mentioned that word is being used more to refer to people who identify as female or who might be non-binary, but when in a binary situation feel more comfortable identifying with that side of things. So it might be useful moving forward if this were to pass to market ourselves when we use the term women to spell it with an X to be a little bit more inclusive if this were to pass.
Great feedback. Omicron, would you like to be recognized? Yes, Omicron, you're recognized.
Yeah, hi. So I am also in favor of this. I think another thing to consider is that many other chapters, at least on Case Western's campus, have started to accept non-binary members, and we get asked this at recruitment frequently, not necessarily by just people who are non-binary, but people who want to know more about like diversity and inclusion of different chapters. And I think this would be very positive for us to be able to accept non-binary members.
Great feedback. Alpha Epsilon, you're recognized.
Hi, I wanted to say that I'm in favor of this. I think that anyone with the spirit of Phi Sigma Rho should be able to join. And I think that it would be useful to use the phrasing that has been adopted by other sororities. Identities that may be considered for membership include non-binary, gender non-conforming individuals who are committed to the advancement of womanhood. In this way, the phrasing used allows the continued use of gendered language that we already use, such as sisters, while allowing the door to remain open to non-binary people to use the terms that best identify with them.
Wonderful, thank you. Alpha Beta active delegate asked whether or not it would change our Title IX status. I can tell you that I am in the middle of doing research on that with a number of with general counsels at other sororities to see whether or not there has been progress in that area. There was an NPC paper put out a number of years ago. I would say that from a Title IX perspective, there have been issues brewing at a number of universities, but nothing has been taken up because the current administration has been pushing back on Title IX. So I would expect that if the administration we flip at the next presidential election, this may be an issue that does get taken up. So no one can say if this would change our Title IX status right now. The current law does not state any particular, does not give any guidance on this. Zeta active delegate, you're recognized.
Hi, I would also like to say that I'm very much in favor of the proposed motion. I would also like to pose the question of how we would be protecting transgender sisters, especially if at the time of their initiation, they're in the process of their own transition.
I will say that, and I think Alex is probably the best person to state this. There have been concerns in our LGBTQ plus affinity Facebook group about what this means. The world of non-binary is very large. Alex, is there anything that you'd like to say?
I think as far as our transgender members go, I don't think this changes that. We accept cis and transgendered women as of now, and this would be to allow non-binary members. And as Kellen said, that is a very wide spectrum. So I think that leaves it to be pretty open. I don't have much to add at the current moment.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I think that I would like to propose that we table this motion for now, pending a larger discussion with the chapters and alum associations to make sure that this is the direction that we want to go in. It seems like everyone has opinions on that. We can try and make that happen during this conference. Does larger membership support that? Postpone. Thanks, Allison. Is there how many would be against postponing a vote on this? Would anyone be against changing the motion to a non-binary person who is born gendered? Alex, you're gonna have to help me this. A non-binary person who's born gendered female. Is that what it is?
There's a couple ways to do it. Assigned female at birth is one way to do it.
Assigned female at birth. A non-binary person who's assigned female at birth. Would there be assigned female at birth or intersex? Would there be an opposition to that? This is a male vote. Okay. Okay. Considering that there's not an overwhelming need for that, okay, all right, it seems that there's a disagreement on that, gentlemen. Okay, all right. We're gonna move forward, and it looks like we have a good handle on how you all feel about this one. Okay. So we are running late, unfortunately, but we have about, I'd like to spend at least the next 10 to 20 minutes discussing the new constitution. We are not postponing the vote on the non-binary, just to be clear. I was asking. We're not voting on it tonight. It is still going out for a mail vote in October, and we're moving it to October because of the quarter schools. Sorry, before we move to the Constitution, people are asking if we will be still allowed to use gendered language. The spirit of my motion is to continue to do that. I believe that we should stick to our core beliefs, which are that we are an organization for women in engineering and engineering technology. And the question being that people will self-select out if they're non-binary and they feel that this type of gendered organization is for them, wonderful. If not, they will obviously not join. Yes, the new constitution has been written and it was sent out to the entire membership. Madeline, if you can just do me a favor and email Gabby at Gabby Salazar, the communication director, and she will resend it to you. Okay. So part of our, moving on to the Constitution, part of our discussion with the former restructure committee was to find a way to move forward on some form of restructure. I want to state very, very clearly that National Council is in agreement that a form of restructure should occur within the sorority. It will help us all. It will decentralize power within the sorority, and ultimately it will make things better for everyone. I think we all truly believe that. The stepping stone to getting that done is to start working on our CBPs so that there is authority placed in other places to start the infrastructure needed to create that restructured organization. Part of doing that was revising our constitution, bylaws, and policies. After working with Abby Schwartz, a member of the former restructure committee and one of our founders, on revising those CBPs, it became very clear that it was a daunting task, and we needed to first focus on the Constitution and then create the Governing Documents Committee to help us look at the bylaws, policies, and future procedures in detail and make sure that we do a good job of revising our bylaws to reflect the constitutional changes. I have told National Council has reviewed this new constitution. They've reviewed the presentation that you're all about to see. We are all in agreement that it is, we find it an acceptable constitution. This is not being voted on tonight. This is a discussion, and this is a chance for you to view the slides that Abby and me put together to sort of explain the new constitution for you. With that, I am going to change the screen and display the slides. Abby.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Am I on? Okay. So this is a slide presentation that I put together that has the old constitution, or what we're working under today, versus what is being proposed line by line, so that you can see where all the differences are. The bulk of it was put together by by the committee, but it also has been done. Kellen and the National Council have made some changes since that time. So this is fully vetted by the National Council at this point. So the first part is our identity. We took the, we basically just cleaned it up. We changed it to include the name as it is incorporated, and described it as the Ohio 50, as a corporation under Ohio law, and that it is a 501c7 nonprofit, which is how we're titled. So basically it just, it puts everything in one spot that says who we are. So I'm gonna, let me step up a second. So the Constitution is just the framework for who we are. It's not supposed to have any of the details. It's supposed to be something that, you know, like when you go into a house and somebody else might have used it, a room as a bedroom, you might want to use it as a kitchen. But this is kind of this is kind of the exterior of the house and the walls around the house. So you can, so the idea is that you don't have to go and change things, hopefully ever. You know, our last one was 19 years old, I think, with minor incremental changes. So this is supposed to take us to the next generation of who we are. So in the second article, we clarified what our vision is. We didn't change our identity. So we're still friendship, scholarship, and encouragement. We're still women in engineering and engineering technology. And we are now focusing, so the committee said, well, in the future, what are we looking at supporting? What kinds of things do we, when our original Constitution was put together, we didn't have a foundation, for instance. And now we're looking at adding the housing corporation, and we wanted to make sure that we have robust alumni experiences and such. So we said that there's 4 areas that we as a sorority are kind of focused on, which is the collegiate experience, the alumni experience, our charitable endeavors, which is our foundation, and the collegiate shared living, which is our housing areas. So in this article, we clarified our mission. We actually kind of revised our mission to emphasize the 4 main areas of collegiate alumni philanthropy and our communal living. And what was originally our values and our culture, we kind of moved into, I think our values are still the same: to foster and maintain these inspired ideals of friendship, scholarship, and encouragement through a lifelong sisterhood of shared interest in engineering. So we used the same wording that was in the original, and we kind of expanded it. So we have a mission, we have values, and we have a culture that we'd like to create. And the culture goes back to our friendship, scholarship, and encouragement. So we have a community, which is friendship, and we want to, we use the same words over here with communication, engagement, involvement. We have our scholarship section, which is professional development, and then we also have our encouragement, which is how we inspire each other. And so we tried to make those more robust and a part of who we are. So Article 3 in membership. So it used to just talk about active alumni and honorary members, but we expanded that a little bit. Instead of calling people active, because we have active alumni also, we wanted to make sure that, you know, as we're talking about alumni being an important part of it, so we have collegiate members and alumni members instead of just actives and alumni. We have honorary members that and that part hasn't changed. We added our membership and participation free from discrimination based on race, religion, ethnic group, national origin, sexual orientation, and disability. We wanted to make sure that we had that non-discrimination clause in there. And then we wanted to add a provision for dues for collegiate and alumni, but not honorary, because if you're honorary, we want to honor you and we don't want to charge you. So that's, so as a framework, it doesn't say what our dues are going to be, but it says that that we are allowed to charge dues. Question of what an honorary member and how they're determined. That is actually the determination on how it's done is in the will be in the bylaws. We have it in our bylaws currently, and so it's somebody who a chapter feels is exemplifies certain qualities. So it's already in our bylaws. So the next part is our organization. So part of the organization, we started out with a structure that was just all about getting the collegiates through school. And we decided that we have these other parts. And so we need to make sure that our organization makes sense and is expandable or contractible as the sorority grows or maybe goes through a hard time or something. But so we wanted to acknowledge all organizations that have the name Phi Sigma Rho, like the foundation and the alumni associations, the collegiate chapters as Phi Rho affiliates. And so the Phi Sigma Rho entities and the Phi Sigma Rho affiliates, the people that all bear the name of Phi Sigma Rho all kind of are under one balloon, I guess. Umbrella is a better word. So it's just acknowledging who the people are that are under the sorority name. I'll catch the questions at the end. Sorry, I can't watch them all. The next section is this visionary council, and that's been kind of tossed around a little bit. The way I like to, so the visionary council takes the presidents of our different organizations that are called Phi Sigma Rho. So the foundation and the national council and maybe the housing corporation takes all of those, and it's a place where they can all get together and come up with a common vision. So the way I like to say it is if Microsoft wants to work with us and give us $1 million, they want to know that everybody's kind of going towards the same direction, and that we don't have, our foundation over here saying one thing and housing doing something completely different. They want to know that the whole organization is going towards the same direction. And so this isn't a council where they get to tell all the organization, tell everybody what to do, but they kind of just keep a long-term vision for the sorority, and they set long-term viability goals. They might come up with an idea for campaign of coming up, like, gosh, we need to work towards getting I don't know, 50,000 members. How do we go about doing that? And everybody, all hands together, gets to go about it. So yeah, I don't know what defines a visionary, somebody asked. Actually, the members of the Visionary Council will be voted on by the membership. So they are voted. I'm sorry. It's actually the presidents plus a few additional members. The additional members will be voted on by the sorority as people who are, who tend to be visionary. I don't know, you guys get to choose. So I guess any other? The legislative, that's you guys. So we didn't have things like email voting when we originally did this. And so, and we also, the laws of Ohio say that we're supposed to actually meet every year and vote on something every year, or vote on our people every year. So this kind of takes what we had and incorporates a few of the laws from the Ohio nonprofit law, which may have changed since we originally did it. Now our voting membership it says that it's comprised of the active collegiate members and the active alumni members. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, I think that's basically it. So the other piece, when I was talking to many of the different chapters, was that was, and just kind of talking, we were talking about the whole, how do we kind of put checks and balances into the whole organization, and it was this idea of putting together an independent judicial board. So that is independent from the National Council. It's elected on its own. It sits and it's not defined here, but it is allowed for in this piece of the Constitution. So the difference is that we've moved the judicial pieces from being inside the National Council to being part of the as independent part of the sorority. Oh, and I didn't mention earlier, one of the other things that we are looking to do is change the words National Council to National Board in recognition of the fact that it is actually a board of directors legally. It has the same power as a board of directors, and we use council as like the getting together of people that don't have power. So like the Visionary Council doesn't actually have power; they have recommendations. But the National Board is actually legally liable for what goes on. They have a duty of care, a duty of fiduciary duty to the organization. So that's one thing that we've actually changed the name of those things. Next, we have the governance board, and that's what I was referring to. So we changed from the National Council to the National Board. Whereas we used to have 9 members, the Constitution now sets it as what's minimum for Ohio nonprofit law, which is a president, or a vice president of finance, and a vice president of communication, or a secretary. Those are the minimum that are required by Ohio law. So those are the minimum that are put into the Constitution. And it allows provision for adding more as additional vice presidents. But the idea is that if you set your Constitution at the minimum with provisions, then you can grow and expand and change the things that as we grow and expand and find different things that we emphasize, we might want to add, add the, I don't know which ones we want to add, but anyway, the idea is that this is just the framework for it. It also talks about the fiduciary duty and how the National Board is actually a board of directors, basically. Operations. So a lot of the day-to-day stuff originally was done by the National Council because that was all there was. We grew to a level where we actually had a paid staff executive director. And so this just recognizes that there is another level, that the National Board is a governance. It's the one that sit up and govern, but the ones that actually are doing the work are the paid staff and executive director. The governing laws, so that pretty much hasn't changed much. In our current bylaws, we kind of have a lot of procedures in our bylaws. One of the things we wanted to do is kind of clean that up. So we want to add a separate section called procedures and distinguish that from our public policies. A public policy is like our non-discrimination policy, or our confidentiality policy. These are the things that we publicly say, this is how we will operate. And not to be confused. I mean, this is how we publicly say, this is how we operate. Procedures are things like, we're going to charge you, $1.75 if we have to send something by via mail or something, whatever it is. Those are the little bitty things. So those are the procedures, and those are the things that you walk through. So we have the Constitution, the ritual, the bylaws, policies, and procedures, and those are all separate documents. Yeah. So then the last piece is amendments, and this is how we amend it. The difference is a cleaned up wording a little bit. Before we had, yeah, well, basically, we still need 2/3 of the voting membership for a quorum. We still need 3/4 of the voting members for a passing vote to change the Constitution. The same thing is true with the ritual. It's the same. In general, anytime that there's a something that's highlighted, it's also in the old Constitution. So we tried to pretty much have the same kinds of things in both. Policies, the policy thing is the same in both of them. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of line by line through the Constitution. I hope that was quick enough. We can go back and look at if there's any questions here that didn't get answered by somebody. Looks like you did the,
yeah. So
gallery members. Oh, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I did answer, I think, most of the questions. So okay. Omicron active delegate, you can be recognized.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you answered this in the chat. There was a lot of messages all at once, but so there was a list of kind of like protected groups that we don't discriminate against as a sorority. And I'm wondering if we could add at the end of that list and any other protected groups, because for example, like that list under Title IX can change. And if this is going to be a document that's really long standing, I would like us to be given that flexibility.
Putting a catch-all like that into a constitution can have unintended consequences. I think there are good intentions around doing that, but we may find ourselves in a situation that we don't think that we're going to find ourselves in, because we may think that they're a protected class and we may actually discriminate against them. I mean, we discriminate against certain majors, and to be quite honest, we discriminate against cisgendered males. So, so I think the spirit of that statement is to say that we're not discriminatory. I think that if we wanted to be more expansive on that, we could certainly put something, I suppose, in the policies regarding, we could do a non-discrimination policy of some sort, if that would be a better way to, if that would be a way that you would be okay with handling something like that.
Yeah, I think what I noticed was, I don't think that transgender individuals were in that list.
Okay. Why don't you, we can take a look at that, and if there's anything else that wasn't included that you think is particularly worrisome, send it over to Helen, and she'll collect all of that, and we'll take a look at it with the governing documents committee.
Okay, thank you.
By chapter, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, did you say 5?
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry. So basically my concern is that for smaller chapters, acquiring housing can be an issue, especially because my chapter, for example, is in DC, and housing prices there are very expensive, and I don't feel like it would be, it wouldn't be practical for us financially to acquire housing and keep it. So is there anybody, like, is there any way that that can be addressed? Because making that a communal aspect for us would just be very difficult, and I feel like exclusionary for our chapter at least.
So the idea of the housing corporation is not that everyone has to have a housing, but that it helps people who do have housing, and it might help small chapters who want to live together in a apartment, help with rules, or it might help them navigate, you know, stuff on campus. Some of the chapters have parts of the dorm that they live together. So it's not housing corporation as oh, everybody has to go buy a house, but it's housing in many different forms. So hope that helps.
So I'm seeing still a lot of discussion about the discrimination statement. I think, you know, the Constitution is, as Abby said, a framework, and we can get more specific in our bylaws and policies and procedures. So the fact that we don't specify something in our Constitution doesn't mean that we're going to discriminate against it. But if we do specifically state something, then we are really pushing ourselves into a corner. So I think, you know, broad specific language is really what's necessary in a constitution. And I wouldn't want to kind of go down the rabbit hole of listing absolute. So I think if there's any suggestions, send it over to Helen and we'll go through them all and see if we want to, you know, add on to it. All right, so Alpha Mu, you are asking about if there's anyone able to assist in actively seeking housing and looking for guidance. Please go ahead and reach out to me and I will put you in touch with Leanne. So the question from Alpha Kappa is if we get specific on some things like race, but not others like gender. Well, we're not.
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
We have to be very careful about gender. Putting gender into that because it has to be worded very carefully because we do discriminate against cis males. We are not a co-ed sorority fraternity. And so we are women in engineering. We do discriminate based on those two things. We do have majors that we discriminate. So we are not all things to all people, unfortunately. And so we can't put gender in that way in there.
This is Alex. Just to clarify, we do discriminate against cisgender males, and any man who is identified as a trans man prior to joining, they would not be allowed to join. Just to clarify the wording.
Yes, that's true.
So are there any other questions about the Constitution? These slides are going to go out to the membership so you can all, you know, scroll through them. I will tell you that, you know, when you start to break apart the new Constitution into its individual pieces, it's actually shocking how very little we changed. I think if anything, Abby and the restructure committee did a really good job of, you know, sort of creating this umbrella of values and culture and, you know, really kind of creating this larger Phi-Rho affiliated organization that we can all be under, where, you know, we have the philanthropic part of it, we have the housing part of it, we have alums and actives. So if anything, I would say that that's one of the biggest changes. The next being the addition of the Judicial Board and Visionary Council. And I would say that to anyone who's concerned about that, I think, you know, think back to social studies, you know, in grade school, when you learned about separation of powers, you know, only good things can come by having checks and balances, and that's what's trying to be achieved here. So I'm going to give it another minute or two. And if there are any other questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. Allison, you asked a great question. The Governing Documents Committee members, will the inputs of the Governing Documents Committee be factored in prior to the vote to adopt it? Yes. Once the Governing Documents Committee merely makes suggestions and does research, those suggestions and research are then presented to the National Council. If they don't pass muster to the National Council, they won't go to the rest of the membership necessarily. They might, but there are really questions about sort of whether or not legislation is well written or serves a purpose that everyone is consistent with our strategic plan. Then we wouldn't send that to the rest of the membership, but for the most part we will send it to the membership with any input that you give. Does that answer your question, Allison?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. Well, if there are no more questions, then this proposal will go out to the membership for a vote in October. We are changing this to October because of the quarter schools. And so with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you everyone for joining and for staying on half an hour later. This was a really great discussion, and I hope that you all consider joining the rest of conference. If anyone has any questions at all, please reach out to any one of us. We're all very accessible and we're very willing to talk with you. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.